what I've noticed is that everywhere you go, everywhere you go in America, there's always a sense of fear. There's always a sense of pride, yes, but there's always a sense of fear. I don't know if this started since 9/11, but I know that it's been there before 9/11, and it's still there after 9/11. Now, I don't know if 9/11 maybe had brought it up a little bit more, had like progressed the idea of fear. I don't really think so, because I actually watched this video when I was younger, and it was telling me about the idea of fear in Americans' minds since the beginning of America. For instance, when Christopher Columbus discovered America, when he sailed to the New World and saw Native Americans there, they were so scared that they used their guns and they started shooting the place up. Or when slaves started to rebel, they got so scared and they started a civil war. Or when the idea of nuclear arms was in the air, when none of it actually was real, and it's our own fault because we're the ones who started the whole nuclear war process with the atom bomb and the Manhattan Project. That was our fault. That was our fault. But at the same time, we're so scared that another country is going to attack us on our own soil, so we buy guns and all this other stuff and all this other crap. And it's just so baffling how we created our own mess. And all these school shootings that's surrounding here, it's freaking crazy. Gabby Giffords, if you guys don't know who Gabby Giffords is, she was a former congresswoman who actually survived. She was shot in the head. Gabby Giffords was shot in the head in front of a mall, I believe it was a couple of years ago, but now she's campaigning with Governor Chris Christie, a Republican from New Jersey. Gabby Giffords is a Democrat, and New Jersey's Governor Chris Christie is a Republican, and they're actually coming together finally to hopefully bring up a bill that would introduce universal universal background checks. And that's a great thing because you don't see that anymore. Do you remember when President Obama wanted universal back checks? That's all he wanted. All he wanted was universal background checks. That's all he wanted. And then Congress said, no freaking way. Why does it take somebody that's not President Obama to bring up something? Is it that America hates Obama so much that no matter what this man does, they're going to just deny it? When Gabby Giffords a Democrat and Chris Christie a Republican, they're finally listening to somebody a couple of years later, and this is after all these shootings happen. Why is it that America can only react when bad things happen? For instance, security was only tightened up after 9/11. It was only tightened up after 9/11, and even still, they kind of was lenient a lot. The Boston Marathon bombing, no type of security until after it happened. And this is even with people's families too. For instance, you don't call your family members until after a death of a family member. You don't talk to your moms or you don't talk to your cousins and your uncles for months until after somebody dies. And that's what America's mindset is, and that's what the Americans' mindset is. Because there was a shooting in a museum in Tunisia that killed 19 people. 19 people. 17 of them was foreigners. All 17 of them was foreigners. It actually happened earlier today. And then you had another shooting in Mesa, Arizona. 1 dead, 5 wounded in Arizona. Fatally shot for what? No reason. And then you have another one that happened. 3 killed, 4 wounded in a shooting outside Stockton, California. And this happened yesterday. And then last year, it was a lot of them, but a school shooting last year at an Oregon high school in Troutdale, Oregon, near Portland. But this goes to show you all the gun murders that's here in America. It's the idea of fear. It's the idea of not knowing what's going on. I tell everybody this all the time, that the absence of not knowing is the most powerful weapon anybody can possibly have. The absence of not knowing. Knowledge really is power. Knowledge really is power, because the lack of knowledge brings in the worst types of minds, because the lack of knowledge lets your mind wander. It says, whoa, well, if I'm not here, then I must be every other place in the freaking world. But when it comes to school shootings, it's like, it's so crazy because there's always a shooting in America. But yet America's the number one country in the world, right? Yet America's the number one safest country in the world. But there's school shootings, there's bombings, all this happens every single day here in America. And you wonder why people like to leave. I don't understand. When I was a freshman in high school, when I was a freshman in college, I never understood the ideas of liberals, Democrats, Republicans, conservative. I didn't really know any of that stuff. And I didn't know that gun control was something that liberals liked, and stricter gun laws was something that liberals liked, and I didn't know that lesser gun laws was something that conservatives like. I didn't know that until I actually started reading up about it. And what I've noticed is that topic in there is the only one that I cannot come to a steady agreement to, because when I was younger, I started to notice that all the stuff that I was agreeing with was a liberal based, and all the stuff that I disagreed with obviously was conservative based, and vice versa. But when it comes to guns, I always said that stricter gun laws was the way to go, because if there's no guns out there, then there's nobody going to be able to kill anybody, you know? But I couldn't live with the fact that the idea, if you have a gun, then you're going to be more safe. I couldn't live with the fact that neighborhoods that have guns are more safe. I couldn't understand that, but there are facts out there that suggest that the more guns you have in a country, the more safe you are. But there are also facts that suggest that the less guns you have, the more safe you are. Now, there's pros and cons to that. Like, the pro for having all the guns all the time is that if somebody breaks into your house, you can protect yourself. Or nobody's going to break into your house if they know that you have a gun in there. Now, the other side, the flip side to it, that if there's no guns around, obviously we know that everybody's going to be safe because there is no idea of guns, but somebody can easily grab a gun from somewhere, and now they can even sell on the black market. But somebody will have a gun, and now they know that you don't have weapons in your house. And that's what trips me out about the gun debate, because I had no idea what side to go on. Most of the stuff in my entire life, I'm like one-sided on. And it's not because I just chose that way. That's just the way how I grew up, and that's how I was. I can't fight that, you know? But when it comes to gun control and the gun debate, I have no idea what side to side with, because they both have very good supporting arguments. And I just can't live with the fact that I can't live with the idea of everybody having a gun in a home, then everybody's safe. What if your kid is carrying a gun? You know how many kids have school shootings? You know how many school shootings there were? And the reason why there were school shootings is because the home had guns in it. Name one family, name one place that you know that had a school shooting where the shooter got a gun from somewhere other than his home. Name one place you know that a school shooting took place where the person got a gun from somewhere other than his home. Nowhere. It's always been the person that has the gun is always from his father's cabinet or from his mother's basement or something like that, for his mother's drawer. They always have guns, the access to guns. So it kind of defeats the argument of everybody having a gun and life would be much safer. It brings me to that idea of, yes, no guns, good. But again, there is a lot of supporting evidence that I have no way of protecting myself. So in that sense, I always used to stay away from it. But it's just so crazy how Congress doesn't do a thing about it, because freaking the Second Amendment law, and now I respect the Second Amendment law. I respect it. It's the law of the land. It's something that we've been living with freaking centuries. So I have no problem against it. Trust me, I really don't.